David is one of the smartest people in any room he walks into. He has 2 degrees. He speaks 3 languages. He can solve complex problems in minutes that take most people hours. His colleagues admire him. His family is proud of him. His friends call him when they need advice. And at 47 years old, David has less than $12,000 to his name. Not because he never earned enough. Not because he made catastrophic decisions. Not because life was unfair to him. But because being smart, genuinely, impressively, undeniably smart, turned out to be the very thing quietly standing between him and wealth. Now pause, because before you keep watching, we need you to do one thing. Think of the smartest person you know, the one who reads everything, questions everything, analyzes everything. Now ask yourself honestly, are they rich, or are they still waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions? Because today we are going to show you something that the smartest people in every room consistently miss. Something that average people stumble into by accident. And something that David is about to learn in the most uncomfortable conversation of his professional life. This is a video about intelligence. About why it helps you in almost every area of life. And quietly destroys you in one. Stay with us. Because what we are about to show you does not just explain David's situation. It explains millions of people sitting exactly where you are right now. Before we get into this story, welcome to Finext Wealth. If this is your first time here, we are genuinely glad you found us. This channel exists for every person who was never given the financial education they deserved. We do not do hype. We do not do shortcuts. We tell the honest story behind why money moves the way it does. With the real numbers, the real psychology, and the real decisions that change everything. Hit subscribe right now. Turn on your notifications. And if you know someone who is brilliant, hardworking, and still not getting ahead financially, share this video with them right now before you watch another second. This might be the most important thing you share with them all year. Now, back to David, and the conversation that changed everything. It was a Thursday afternoon. David was at a conference, a finance and business summit in the city. The kind of event where smart people gather to talk about smart things. And during the lunch break, standing at the buffet table, plate in hand, David got into a conversation with a man named Leon. Leon was not the most impressive person in the room. He was not the most articulate, not the most credentialed. He ran a small property management company. He had no university degree. He drove a car that was 4 years old. He wore a watch that did not cost more than $50, and somewhere between the salad and the main course. Leon mentioned, casually, without any performance, that he had retired his wife from work 3 years ago, that his 3 rental properties generated more than his previous salary combined, that he spent his mornings reading and his afternoons deciding, not executing, not rushing, not proving anything to anyone, just deciding. David looked at Leon for a moment. Then he looked around the room, at the PhDs, the MBAs, the published authors, at the people with the impressive titles and the complex vocabularies and the confident opinions, and then back at Leon, who was quietly eating his salad. David put his fork down. He said, "Leon, can I ask you something personal?" Leon said, "Sure." David said, "How did you do it?" Leon chewed thoughtfully, set down his fork. He said, "I stopped being smart about it." David blinked. Leon said, "The day I stopped trying to be clever about money was the day money started working for me." Here's the thing nobody tells you about intelligence. Intelligence is brilliant at generating reasons. Not just reasons to act. Reasons not to act. Smart people do not fail at finance because they do not understand it. They fail because they understand it too well. They understand the risk in every investment. They understand the volatility of every market. They understand the complexity of every financial product. They can construct a perfectly logical argument for why now is not the right time, why the conditions are not optimal. Why do they need more information before they commit? And they are almost always right. The analysis is almost always correct. The risks they identify are almost always real. But while the smart person is perfecting their analysis, the average person is already in the market, already compounding, already building, imperfectly, incompletely, with gaps in their understanding that would make a financial expert wince. But building. David has spent 15 years analyzing the property market. He knows more about property investment than most estate agents. He can tell you cap rates, gross yields, vacancy risk, interest rate exposure. He has read 17 books on the subject. He has built spreadsheets of extraordinary complexity. He has never bought a single property, because there was always something else to understand first. Always one more piece of data that needed gathering before the conditions were right. Leon bought his first property at 28. He read one book. He asked one experienced landlord 3 questions. He made an offer. The property had problems he did not anticipate. He solved them, and then he bought another one. Leon is not smarter than David. Leon is not more hardworking than David. Leon simply has a different relationship with imperfection. And that relationship, with imperfection, with uncertainty, with a messy reality of acting before you know everything, is the single most valuable financial asset a person can own. Leon finishes his salad and leans back. He says, David, smart people fall into 4 traps. Every single time. Without exception. David takes out his phone and opens his notes. Leon says, put the phone away. David looks up. Leon says, if you write it down, you will analyze it later instead of feel it now. David puts the phone away. Leon says, the first trap is called analysis paralysis. You already know this one. The research never ends because perfect information never arrives. Every new piece of data generates 3 new questions. The analysis becomes the activity, and the activity that matters never starts. David nods. He knows this one personally. Leon says, the second trap is called credential obsession. Smart people believe that more knowledge produces more results. So they take another course, read another book, get another qualification. Not because they need it, because more knowledge feels like progress. But consuming knowledge without deploying it is not an investment. It is expensive entertainment. The third trap, comparison paralysis. Smart people compare themselves to the best version of every strategy they study. They read about property investors who own 50 units. They read about stock traders who returned 40% in a year. They compare their start to someone else's middle. And because they cannot replicate that result immediately, they conclude they are not ready. They will be ready when they are as good as the person at the top. They never start. The person at the top started from exactly where David was standing. They just started. The fourth trap, and this one is the most expensive. It is called the opportunity cost of waiting. David has been waiting 15 years to buy his first property. If David had bought a modest property 15 years ago, with all its imperfections, all its unknowns, all the gaps in his knowledge, at an average property appreciation of 6% per year, that property would now be worth nearly 2.4 times what he paid for it. If he bought it for £200,000, it would now be worth nearly £480,000 and would have generated 15 years of rental income on top of that. David did not lose money. He lost time. And time, in the mathematics of wealth, is the only currency you cannot earn back. David asks Leon, where did you start? Leon says, I was 28. I had £11,000 saved. I knew almost nothing. I read one book on property investment. One. About 150 pages. I spoke to one landlord who had been doing it for 20 years. He gave me 3 pieces of advice. Buy in an area you understand. Make sure the rent covers the mortgage and then some. Do not overcomplicate it. That was my entire education. David says, and it was enough. Leon says, it was enough to start. I made mistakes. The first tenant stopped paying rent for 4 months. I had no idea how to handle it. I figured it out. The boiler broke in year 2. I learned what a boiler service contract was. The roof needed work in year 4. I learned how to manage a builder. Every problem taught me something that no book had. Because books teach you about problems in theory. Owning a property teaches you about problems in reality. And reality compounds in ways that theory never does. David is quiet. Leon says, you know what the difference is between you and me, David? David says, what? Leon says, I'm not smarter than you. I'm just more comfortable being wrong. Every property I have bought has had something wrong with it. Every decision I have made has had gaps in it. I have never waited for the gaps to close before I acted. I just acted and closed the gaps as they appeared. David, the gaps never close before you start. They only close after. Now here is the part of the story that surprises everyone. Average people do not succeed at building wealth because they are more disciplined. They do not succeed because they try harder. They succeed because they think less. Not in a dismissive way, in a liberating way. The average person who buys their first investment property does not spend 15 years reading about it. They speak to someone who has done it. They ask 3 questions. They find something they can afford. They act. Their decision-making process is shorter, not because they are less thorough, but because they have not built a mental architecture of complexity around the decision. They see a relatively simple mechanism, by something that generates more than it costs, and they execute it. Smart people see the same mechanism, and then immediately build a cathedral of complexity around it. Risk matrices, market timing models, tax optimization frameworks, all of which are genuinely valuable, all of which, in the hands of an analytical mind, become reasons to delay. This is not an argument against intelligence. It is an argument for intentional simplicity. The wealthiest people David will ever meet are not the least intelligent people in the room. They are the most intelligent people who have learned to deliberately ignore the complexity their intelligence generates. They choose simple action over perfect analysis every single time because they have learned, through experience, that imperfect action compounds, and perfect analysis does not. The lunch break is almost over. People around them are beginning to drift back toward the conference hall. David looks at Leon. He says, "Leon, if you were me, right now, what would you do?" Leon does not hesitate. He says, "I would stop reading about it. I would find one property in an area I know. I would run one simple calculation. Does the rent cover the mortgage? If yes, I would make an offer. Not the perfect property, not the perfect area, not the perfect moment. Just a property, an offer, a start." David says, "What if I get it wrong?" Leon smiles. He says, "You will get it wrong. That is not a risk. That is a guarantee. The question is not whether you will get it wrong. The question is whether getting it wrong is better than getting nothing." David thinks about the $12,000 sitting in a savings account earning almost nothing. He thinks about 15 years of research that produced 17 books of knowledge and 0 properties. He thinks about Leon's wife, not working. Leon's mornings, reading. Leon's afternoons, deciding. He picks up his phone, not to take notes, to search property listings in his neighborhood. Leon watches. He does not say anything. He just nods once and goes back to his coffee. The conference ended at 5. David drove home in his 10-year-old car. He did not listen to the radio. He thought about Leon. He thought about 17 books. He thought about 15 years of perfectly logical reasons why the moment was not right. He thought about a property, imperfect, uncertain, full of gaps, that would have been worth nearly £500,000 today if a younger, less informed, less analytical version of himself had simply bought it. He thought about the cost of being smart, and he understood, for the first time, clearly and without comfort, that intelligence is not the problem. The relationship with uncertainty is the problem. That the willingness to act before you know enough, to be wrong in public, to fix the gaps as they appear, to treat imperfect action as the beginning of education rather than the risk of embarrassment, is not a lack of intelligence. It is intelligence applied correctly. David pulled into his driveway. He sat in the car for a few minutes. Then he opened his phone. He found a property listing 3 streets from where he grew up. A modest 2-bedroom flat, priced fairly for the area. He did not read every detail. He did not build a spreadsheet. He called the estate agent. He asked one question. "Does the rent in this area cover a mortgage on this property?" The agent said yes. David said, "I would like to book a viewing." And for the first time in 15 years of knowing everything, David did something. The difference between smart people who stay broke and average people who quietly get rich is not knowledge. It is the willingness to act with the knowledge they have before the knowledge feels complete, because the knowledge never feels complete. It just compounds when you give it somewhere to go. Before you close this video, If David's story felt familiar, if you recognized yourself in the analysis, the research, the perfectly logical reasons why now is not quite right, please share this video right now with the smartest person you know who is still waiting for the perfect moment. This is the moment. Hit the like button if Leon's words landed for you. Subscribe to Finext Wealth, because this channel exists for the people who are ready to stop analyzing their financial future and start building it. We are so glad you are here. Welcome to Finext Wealth. Thank you for watching today. Genuinely, from all of us, thank you. This video took everything we had to make, and knowing that it found its way to you, make every moment of it worth it.